a bill moving through Congress designed to curb online piracy. It was called SOPA. Activists like Peter Eckersley saw it as an enormous overreach, threatening the technical integrity of the internet itself.
And one of the first things I did was to call Aaron. I said, can we do a big online campaign against this?
This isn't a bill about copyright. It's not? No, he said. It's a bill about the freedom to connect. Now I was listening.
And he thought about it for a while and then said yes. And he went and founded Demand Progress.
Demand Progress is an online activism organization. We've got around 1.5 million members now, but started in the fall of 2010. Aaron was one of the most prominent people in a community of people who helped lead organizing around social justice issues at the federal level in this country.
SOPA was the bill that was intended to curtail online piracy of music and movies, but what it did was basically take a sledgehammer to a problem that needed a scalpel.
If passed, the law would allow a company to cut off finances to entire websites without due process, or even to force Google to exclude their links. All they needed was a single claim of copyright infringement. It pitted the titans of traditional media against a new and now far more sophisticated remix culture.
It makes everyone who runs a website into a policeman. And if they don't do their job of making sure nobody on their site uses it for anything that's even potentially illegal, the entire site can get shut down without even so much as a trial.
This was over the top. I mean, this was a catastrophe.
This bill poses a serious threat to speech and civil liberties for all who use the internet.
There were only a handful of us who said, look, we're not for piracy either, but it makes no sense to destroy the architecture of the internet, the domain name system, and so much that makes it free and open in the name of fighting piracy. And Aaron got that right away.
The freedoms guaranteed in our Constitution, the freedoms our country had been built on, would be suddenly deleted. New technology, instead of bringing us greater freedom, would have snuffed out fundamental rights we'd always taken for granted. And I realized that day, talking to Peter, that I couldn't let that happen.
When SOPA was introduced in October 2011, it was considered inevitable. Our strategy when it first came out was to hopefully slow the bill down, maybe weaken it a little bit, but even we didn't think that we would be able to stop this bill.
Having worked in Washington, what you learn is that typically in Washington, the legislative fights are fights between different sets of corporate moneyed interests. They're all duking it out to pass legislation. And the fights that are the closest are when you have one set of corporate interests against another set of corporate interests, and they're financially equally matched in terms of campaign contributions and lobbying. Those are the closest ones. The ones that aren't even fights typically are ones where all the money is on one side, all the corporations are on one side, and it's just millions of people on the other side.
I haven't seen anything like PIPA and SOPA in all my time in public service. There were more than 40 United States senators on that bill as co-sponsors. So there were already a long, long way to getting the 60 votes to have it clear all the procedural hoops.
Even I began to doubt myself. It was a rough period.
Swartz and Demand Progress were able to marshal enormous support, using traditional outreach combined with commonly used voice over IP to make it very easy for people to call Congress.
I've never met anybody else who was able to operate at his level, both on the technological side and on the campaign strategy side.
Millions of people contacted Congress and signed anti-SOPA petitions. Congress was caught off guard.
I don't think anybody really thought that SOPA could be beaten, including Aaron. I think it was worth trying, but it didn't seem winnable. And I remember maybe a few months later, I remember him just turning to me and being like, I think we might win this. And I was like, that would be amazing.
Calls to Congress continue. When the domain hosting site GoDaddy becomes a supporter of the bill, tens of thousands of users transferred their domain names in protest. Within a week, a humbled GoDaddy reverses their position on SOPA.
When the Congress people that supported the record and movie industries realized that there was this backlash, they kind of scaled the bill back a little bit.
You could see the curve happening. You could see that that our arguments were starting to resonate.
It was like Aaron had been like striking a match and it was being blown out. Striking another one was being blown out. And finally he'd like managed to catch enough kindling that the flame actually caught, and then it turned into this roaring blaze.
On January 16, 2012, the White House issued a statement saying they didn't support the bill. And then this happened.
I'm a big believer that we should be dealing with issues of piracy, and we should deal with them in a serious way. But this bill is not the right bill.
When Jimmy Wales put his support towards blacking out Wikipedia, the #5 most popular website in the world. This is a website that's on several % of all of the clicks on anywhere on the internet.
Wikipedia went black, Reddit went black, Craigslist went black, the phone lines on Capitol Hill flat out melted. Members of Congress started rushing to issue statements retracting their support for the bill that they were promoting just a couple days ago.
Within 24 hours, the number of opponents of SOPA in Congress went from this to this.
To see congressmen and senators slowly flip sides throughout the day of the blackout was pretty unbelievable. There was like a 100 representative swing.
And that was when, as hard as it was for me to believe, after all this, we had won. The thing that everyone said was impossible, that some of the biggest companies in the world had written off as kind of a pipe dream, had happened. We did it. We won.
This is a historic week in internet politics, maybe American politics.
The thing that we heard from people in Washington, D.C., from staffers on Capitol Hill was they received more emails and more phone calls on SOPA blackout day than they'd ever received about anything. I think that was an extremely exciting moment. This was the moment when the internet had grown up politically.
It was exhilarating because it's hard to believe it actually happened. It's hard to believe a bill with so much financial power behind it didn't simply sail through the Congress. And not only did it not sail through, it didn't pass at all.
It's easy sometimes to feel like you're powerless, like when you come out in the streets and you march and you yell and nobody hears you. But I'm here to tell you today, you are powerful. So yeah, maybe sometimes you feel like you're not being listened to, but I'm here to tell you that you are. You are being listened to. You are making a difference. You can stop this bill if you don't stop fighting. Stop PIPA. Stop SOPA.